Hi, everybody. My name is Frank. This is Shawn.
Hello.
And we have Regina with us. Today,
Hi.
we're going to talk about a topic that's on top of mind of many parents today. If you have kids that have exhibited any sort of behavioral challenges, for example, if they're not eating well, they keep hitting their head on the wall, or they're just having some sensory issues, we're going to dive in with our occupation therapist, Shawn, and our behavioral consultant, Regina. All right. So let's dive right in. Okay. So Shawn, tell us about how you started Kidstart Pediatric Therapy. What made you want to dive into this scene?
Okay, it's a good question. So, I work as an occupational therapist for the past 15 years, and then I always had passion working with kids and really help the families. My starting motivation to found this clinic is to provide more support to the community, especially for kids with special needs. It was kind of hard at the beginning, but once I have more reach to more kids and more families and more people actually know us, then it becomes more smooth. So that's how I started in the first place. And then once we grow a bit more, now I think it's more successful.
Perfect. That's honorable. And what have you found to be some feedbacks from the parents?
As for now, a lot of clients we work with, especially for our OT services, they all think our service is actually very good, and then they really provide a lot of good review and feedback. And then one thing that we notice is our therapists, they're all very dedicated to their work, and then they really put a lot of work to work with their families. Clients actually have a lot of improvement and progress, and that's what we actually could strive for.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So, what would you say to parents who might be sitting on the fence whether they should entertain this option a little bit more if they find that maybe they are seeing some behavioral challenges in their kids? What would you say to these parents?
I would say it's always to start some kind of consultation with professionals. Yeah, whether you think that it might be or might not be some kind of difficulties or might be related to certain thing, but you're not sure.
Mhm.
But I would say the starting point is always to consult with someone who is professional in that field, and then give us a call and contact us, and then we always can provide some free consultation. So that is always the starting point. And then after that, if you think that it's actually good to continue to work with someone and then they actually can provide you some kind of good support, I would say it's good to continue to work on those things and then find support and then find someone you can trust and work with them.
That's excellent to hear. I think it's heartwarming to know that there are support systems like this. A lot of parents I know they're silently struggling, and there seems to be some sort of stigma, especially in the East Asian community. So keeping that in mind, what would you say to parents or even educators who might be feeling a bit shy to engage in these kind of help?
Yeah, I would say maybe at the beginning might be a bit more difficult. You're not sure, and then also maybe kind of that first step up might be difficult at the beginning. But to find someone you can trust and actually can guide you slowly, and then use the way that you feel comfortable, I think that's important. And the Kickstarts, we always try to listen and then try our best to understand their needs. If they are a little bit shy and not quite sure, not comfortable about certain thing, we'll take it slow and then try to use the pace they can actually accept and try to go from there. But I would say to make that first step is important. And then with us, we always can try our best to use the way that they can feel comfortable and slowly make some progress. I would say that first step is what we need to do. But we always can, make sure that everything is all right and then people can feel comfortable with.
That's excellent to hear. That sounds like a no stress environment, right?
No stress environment.
That's what we need. We're all stressed out today. Okay, perfect. What exactly would you say pediatric occupation therapists do? What are some of the telltale signs that kids
Yeah,
might benefit from
I would
OT?
say for an occupational therapist, we do so many different things, especially with kids. But what we actually start is actually from the child development. So the starting point is always from a parents noticing the child's not eating well, or not sleeping well, or not doing something that well, or struggling in the environments of daycare or home environments. And then for the understanding about the child, maybe it's a bit delayed in the development and then not maybe on par with some other kids. And that's always the starting point. And then OT, what we can do is to do assessment to really figure out if that's something that we need to really do something about, or something that we can kind of wait and to see how it goes in the end. But assessment is always the first step we do. And then once we realize and figure out, okay, so from the assessment, the child struggle with this and this, either it's behavior, sensory issues, or motor skill development, or self-care, or any other aspect related to the child development. Once we figure out if that's related to certain area, then we can work on those things by using some kind of therapy activities in our clinic.
Okay, that's perfect. So maybe help me understand. Let's walk through this process. Let's say I am a parent. I have a child who is not thriving physically. We identify that maybe he seems to be very nervous around loud noises or public settings, can't quite take care of themselves in terms of self-care. What would you say would be kind of the roadmap for the parent to do, and then any support, financial or free services that you know of that you can help our audience
that's
to
a good
tap
question.
into.
Yeah. So basically what we need to do is to have a first phone interview or phone call with the parent to know and having to figure out a bit more background information. So what exactly when parents say, oh, there's a physically delayed or something that they're not be able to do, and then particular daily activities is very challenging for them. We want to dive more in detail about how those things actually play out in their daily life, and then we can use our kind of professional judgment about, oh yeah, this might be related to certain area, or might be something to do with this particular, let's say, sensory processing, motor skill, or any other thing that related to what OT can do. Then after that, we might say, okay, we're gonna do an in-person assessment, and then during that assessment process, our therapist will conduct some of the assessment activities, and then to figure out for this particular area might be issue with this and this, then we can actually say now we can use some kind of therapy activity to address those areas.
And can you talk about a little bit what kind of help the provincial government or the medical system might provide for kids
Yeah,
that
so
have
in
been
terms
identified?
of funding wise, I think our government provide some funding for kids who have the diagnosis of autism, and then provide certain amount for kids who are under 6 years old, and then the other amount for kids who are older. But they provide certain amount of money for the family to use for the therapy sessions, equipment, and maybe consultation or some other things. So we can help to apply for those funding for you, and then once you have access to the funding, then you can use the funding to cover the cost of the session.
That's excellent to hear. So it sounds like everything starts with one phone call.
Yeah, that's right. I
Yeah.
think start from one phone call, and then of course we'll always encourage parents to kind of pay attention to little like some little things in the daily life. If they notice something a bit not right, it's always to like start a phone call, even though maybe at the end we don't, maybe that's not something we need to worry about. But start from a phone call, and it's to help you understand more about your child, and then we can actually figure out how we can support you.
Great. I'm so happy to hear that. That's actually a good segue to our next part of the discussion. So we're going to talk about a little bit more on behavioral challenges, and this would be a nice one for Regina. Regina, can you enlighten us? What kind of common behavioral challenges are we seeing in school or the kids that are visiting the clinic these days?
It's really complicated because every kid is unique. So then sometimes the parents might have similar, some might don't. So that's why what Shawn was mentioning is better to have a consultation first, and then we can move to step over if we need like a school observations, or maybe, come into the clinic for another assessment. So it's really hard to say because every kid is unique.
Got it. I talk to a lot of parents and they have their day-to-day struggle, but I think many struggle with, okay, when exactly should I seek help? Or they might think, oh, this is just kids being kids. So what would you say to that?
I think I'll leave this to Shawn.
Okay, yeah, I would say what will be the starting point, right? When to actually consider reaching out?
Yeah, or even maybe there are some sort of
I
exercise
would
that parents can do at home.
as early as you can. Yeah, because there's really no harm to really talk to a professional. Right?
Yeah.
We offer free consultation. Right?
Right.
So just really financial stress out, you have to pay for the free consultation. It's free. And then to gain more understanding, even though sometimes after the free consultation, maybe there's no need to continue, but this you gain more understanding about your child, right? Because our professional can provide you more idea about what your child might be doing and then what that might be related to certain struggles or behavior. They'll provide you more detail and more information. So it's always good to know.
Right.
So I would say the starting point is as soon as you notice, your child is struggling with certain thing, and then for your parenting, it's always hard for you to do something with them. For example, it just takes a lot of the time to just get them go to bed or get them to finish their meal, or they always struggle with paying attention to do activities, and then they always just have a lot of behaviors difficulties. That is the starting point. This is when you can actually reach out to us.
Okay, perfect. And that actually brings up a good point. I think as our generation grows up, maybe we're not educated in this area, but we are seeing an uptake, or perhaps it's a result of more diagnosis of kids with special needs. So sometimes parents don't even know that their children is exhibiting this kind of behavior. So I do notice that there is a stigma. We're coming back to this question. What would you say to parents, like if they're feeling afraid that I don't want to label my kids, or autism is just another label. We don't want to have these kind of diagnoses on our kids. What would you say to that?
Of course, we understand their concerns, but it's also very important to think this way. As early as you can to find support for your child, then you're actually preventing some kind of, questions or challenges happen in the future. So the earlier that you can actually do, then we reach out to professionals. And of course, you can always express your concern. I don't want to have this label, or I'm still considering this. And then if I have this label to my child, what's going to happen to him in the future? You can always express your concern. I think our professionals can always help you understand, how we actually, maybe minimize those concerns or those things that can happen, but also at the same time provide the right support. I would say the key point is still to provide the right support for your child, so your child get the right support and also right help, and then to support the development, so in the future they can thrive and also continue to grow and continue to improve. And that's what we need to do.
That's a perfect way to put it. Now, what about the parents? Do you guys provide perhaps coaching session for parents, or educational seminars for parents?
Yeah. So our process looks like this. From the assessment, we know a bit more about the child. Then we'll run our regular session depending on the needs. But at the same time, we know parents is very important, right? So we need to involve parents during the process. So that parent consultation and coaching is also part of the process, right? So now we'll just run direct session with the child. We can also provide parent consultation session or coaching, or even some sort of like parent workshop. So we can always consider that as part of the treatment process.
Okay, perfect. We talked a lot about how OT can support, and I think this is a much needed service, and we see that being the case in our public sector. So let's talk about how a parent can get started. So let's say they have a consultation with Kidstart. They identify, there are some areas that we can work on to benefit the child. So what would be the next step? I know that there is the autism funding that you spoke of. So what does that process looks like? And if you can offer any sort of suggestions, and insider point of view would be great.
I would say as soon as you notice something that you want to really kind of find help for, and then you notice something a bit different or something that you really need some kind of support, reach out to us, and then we'll help you to kind of find the path for the right support. So the phone call, and then maybe followed by assessment, and then we'll help you to find out, if you really need a diagnosis to get access to the funding, we can refer you to some of the people we know who can actually make the diagnosis. Then after that, we'll be able to help you get access to the funding. Once you secure the funding, then we'll be able to start our treatment sessions, whether it's direct session with the clients or the parent consultation with parents and coach and stuff. And then that will be the next step, right? And then after that, we'll regular session, checking on the progress and improvements, provide more updates, and then modify our service.
Perfect. And I want to touch a little bit on the time frame.
Yeah.
So how long would you say it takes to get a diagnosis before you can apply for autism funding?
So in BC, the struggles that most parents have is when they only to go with the public assessment for the diagnosis might take a lot of time, maybe anywhere between a year. Sometimes after like there's 2 years to wait. So if you can finding a private like psychologist who can actually do the assessment, go that route will save a lot of time. But of course, at the same time, it will cost a bit more because it's private. Then you need to pay out of pocket. But the benefits of that is you can actually speed up the process to secure your funding a lot sooner. Then you can start your session and therapy and all the support right after that. So yeah, it's something that I think we can encourage parents to consider if they can go through that private assessment. Then that will save some time. But the time that you save will be very valuable for your child to start this service as soon as they can.
Yes, I see that because you mentioned that earlier the intervention can start, the better for the kid, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Intervention is very important.
That's excellent. Okay, I think that's comprehensive. I want to give the table to both of you. Any last comments that you want to share with our
Regina,
audience?
maybe say a bit more about behavior consulting in general, or just say a few words about how child's behavior related to the diagnosis.
I would say that bring your kids in and give us a call. I think that'd be good because behavior is learned. Either environmental, parents, behavior, it's all learned. So there's a lot of functions to it. So there are around like functions, for example, maybe they want to avoid some task and escape from it. So maybe that's why they have the behavior. Sometimes maybe because they're sensory overloading and that might need OT's help. And if they have communication problem, that's where all the collaboration works, where we collab with SLP or even with OT to help them during that process. So that's why it's better, I recommend it, to give us a call, get that free consultations, of course, and then we can go from there. And then we're here for you. Like, we'll welcome everybody, and as long as we're able to support whatever the child's needs, I think that's the best for them. We want whatever's best for the kid.
Yeah, we appreciate that very much.
That's right.
Yeah. For the parents who are wondering, okay, so if my kid engage in a behavioral consultation session, what type of therapy, what kind of engagement should they expect? Are we talking about cognitive behavioral therapy? So we're talking through scenarios and help them identify how to better approach or react to certain situation, or there are actually exercises that we do so with kids that help them overcome challenges? Either of you is fine.
I would say it depends on the needs, right? So, for example, you mentioned about like cognitive behavior therapy. Yeah, maybe talking and then sharing, expressing idea, and then engaging with them relatively, understand why they think the way they think, and then address that from there. But from the OT, we might do a bit more hands-on, so maybe not just talking, but also doing activity, and then utilize that interaction or engagement as a approach to actually address those issues, right? We might also do some physical exercise or things like that if that's needed, if that's addressed like motor skill or some other things. We might do a bit more role play as well for the child to do certain thing, so that role play to engage the child and to also address those skills. So I would say it really depends on the needs and it varies from session to session and also from therapist to therapist as well. But I would say the final word is we will use the best approach we can, evidence-based, and then we'll also collaborate with our different professionals we have here and to provide the best care for our clients.
Perfect. That's extremely reassuring. This is an add-on question. Maybe we can give some specific examples, some success stories, right? So maybe one kid came in with certain behavioral issue that are quite common to many parents that are experiencing the same scenario. So what have we done, and what is the outcome for that particular child? If we can think of any
there are
case.
so many different examples, but one I think I can actually come up with. We used to have, I think he's still coming. So that client, I finished the comprehensive assessment, and then the original concern was like not be able to function properly at the daycare, a lot of disruptive behavior, maybe due to sensory sensitivities, but maybe due to communication issues. So reach out to us and finish the assessment, and then all three of our services, both OT, SLP, and also behavior consultation are involved. And then we finish the assessment and we figure out there's an issue with self-regulation, sensory processing, and maybe challenging with the social communication and social skills lacking, and then not be able to function properly with other kids at daycare. So we started the intensive treatment session over here for all three services, OT, SLP, and then behavior. So work on how to social properly with other kids during that behavior session. For the OT, working on the self-regulation, utilizing different sensory tool to adjust that sensory processing. In the speech session, work on social communication, language, and how to say certain words and how to use proper language to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then all three services together, not only just individually to run that session, but we also have the parent meeting with all services together, all the service provider, OT, SLP, and BC, and then provide the progress report for the child to function successfully in the daycare. And now the child is actually doing a lot better compared to the beginning in the school. And then the child is actually having a lot more successful time engaging with other kids as a teacher, and then parents actually feel a lot more comfortable sending their kids to the school.
Oh, that's good to hear. And how long did that take, if you don't mind?
I think it took, around 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
It was a while, but I think parents actually involved a lot, and parents always ask questions and get feedback from us. So that collaboration between parents and all the service providers all together, I think is a key to make sure the child actually progress and then have that. But 4 to 6 months is probably around the time that we will need to really address many issues and then get everything go together.
Yeah, it takes a village to raise a kid, and behavior takes time to change, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, but I would say with the right support and then with the right type of people you work with, I think we can see the improvement, we can see the growth, and that's what we are actually doing right here.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, it has been a pleasure speaking to you both. And I would say, Shawn and Regina are here to stick around. Our listeners, if you have questions, feel free to comment below, and then we will have another one in the future.
Sure.
We'll create a series. Okay, thank you so much, both of you. Take good care.
Thank you.
Everything starts with a phone call.
That's right.
Okay.
Phone call.
All right, take care, guys.